This week at NASA. Astronaut Steve Bowen will replace Tim Kopra on the next space shuttle mission. Kopra, a mission specialist on STS-133, was injured in a bicycle accident. Bowen began training with the STS-133 crew, which includes Commander Steve Lindsay, pilot Eric Bowe, and mission specialists Alvin Drew, Michael Barrett, and Nicole Stott. Bowen also will train to perform the mission's 2 planned spacewalks. A veteran flyer, Bowen has walked in space 5 times. His 2 new excursions will take place when he partners with Drew to move a failed ammonia pump and perform other external configurations to the International Space Station. STS-133 will deliver the permanent multi-purpose module, an external platform that holds large equipment and critical spare components for the station. It will also deliver Robonaut 2, or R2, the first human-like robot in space. The mission's target launch date is February 24th. On Valentine's Day, the Stardust spacecraft, which finished one history-making mission 5 years ago, will now complete another, getting up close and personal with the Comet Tempel 1. You may recall that Comet Tempel 1 was deliberately smashed into in 2005 as part of the Deep Impact mission to study the comet's interior. Now Tempel 1 will be revisited by the Stardust spacecraft for what is called the Stardust Next mission. At a news briefing held at NASA headquarters, Stardust scientists talked about this important landmark voyage.
Our last targeting maneuver as we approach the comet is 2 days out. That is the last maneuver that will be fully designed to target to our 200-kilometer flyby distance, and that will be executed 2 days before we arrive at the comet. Right after that maneuver, we'll be taking our last optical navigation images, and those are the images that we'll use to build our best prediction of our actual flyby point and the path of the trajectory of the comet relative to the spacecraft.
This is the first ever follow-up visit to a comet, and it will allow scientists to look for changes on a comet's surface caused by a close flyby.
All our major uncertainties or challenges, we've addressed all of them. So I'm frankly very, very confident in the results of that we're going to get a good flyby and good images of the comet.
On January 15, 2006, the Stardust spacecraft returned from a rendezvous with Cometville 2 and jettisoned its capsule containing particles collected directly from the comet, as well as interstellar dust. Also at headquarters, the agency's next Earth-observing satellite mission, Glory, was detailed at another briefing held in the James Webb Auditorium. Glory, scheduled to launch February 23rd, will study the impact of the sun and airborne particles on Earth's climate.
This will serve as a resource for making scientifically based economic, health, and policy decisions related to environmental change.
Both programs were broadcast live on NASA television and on the agency's website. The American Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics presented NASA's chief technologist, Bobby Braun, with the Von Karman Lectureship in Astronautics Award. Braun was recognized for significantly advancing the understanding of the challenge of Mars entry, descent, and landing, and for developing systems concepts and technologies enabling Martian exploration programs. The Von Karman Award, named for astronautics pioneer Theodore Von Karman, is given annually by the AIAA to an individual who has distinguished themselves technically in the field of astronautics. The presentation was made at the AIAA's 49th Aerospace Sciences meeting in Orlando.
Now, Martin Luther King was the most famous. He was the best known of all the modern movement's personalities. But we should remember this was a people's movement.
NASA helped commemorate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. with a special celebration at the Goddard Space Flight Center. Guest speaker was Dr. Julian Bond, former chairman of the NAACP and well-known civil rights leader and social activist.
We can't forget that Dr. King stood before and with thousands, the people who made that mighty movement what it was. From Jamestown's slave pens to Montgomery's boycotted buses, these ordinary women and men labored in obscurity, and from Montgomery forward, they provided the foot soldiers of the Freedom Army.
Students from the Duke Ellington School of the Arts in the District of Columbia rounded out the event with songs and dances selected for the occasion.
I think if Dr. King were here today, he'd be amazed that we have sent 20 black astronauts into space. And he'd be amazed that I had met one of them just 2 days ago, Dr. Satcher, in Nashville. By coincidence, we happened to be together. And I think you'd just be overcome at the notion that black Americans are doing things that many Americans never thought anybody would ever do, and that is to go into space.
And now, centerpieces.
Landing an ER-2, NASA's civilian version of the Air Force's high-altitude U-2S plane, can be tricky. Its wings give the aircraft glider-like qualities, making it sensitive to crosswinds. The ascent and descent rates are fast and steep. And since its pilot must remain in a pressure suit, sometimes for a long period of time, even normal operations inside the ER-2 can be difficult.
It's hard for him to judge altitude in this particular aircraft, and he has to actually stall the aircraft on every landing. So the plane has to be in a full stall. I'm basically his co-pilot, basically in the car.
That's where the agency's recently acquired Dodge Charger safety chase car comes into play. The specially designed vehicle, driven by an experienced ER-2 pilot, also called Mobile Pilot, charges down the runway at high speeds as the driver calls out data to the ER-2 pilot. Things like distance in feet to the runway, taxiing details, and any other critical information to help facilitate a smooth and safe landing.
There's about 20 at the T. There's 10, 8, 6, 4, 4, 3, 2, little right rudder, 1, little right rudder, inches.
The Air Force has a history of relying on chase vehicles for landing safety. Following their lead, Dryden's Airborne Science Program has leased the government-owned Charger for 5 years, and managers say the car has added an extra value of safety to ER-2 flight operations.
Lifting off aboard its Titan Centaur rocket from Cape Canaveral, Florida on August 20th, 1977, Voyager 2 was one of a pair of NASA spacecraft bound to explore the planets and interplanetary environment of the outer solar system. Its companion, Voyager 1, followed a month later. 8.5 years after launch, on January 24, 1986, Voyager 2 made a successful flyby of Uranus, returning about 8,000 images of the planet and its moons. Between them, Voyager 1 and 2 have explored all the giant planets of our outer solar system: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, 48 of their moons, and the unique system of rings and magnetic fields surrounding those planets. Decades and many billions of miles later, both Voyagers are continuing their journeys to the boundaries of the solar system. And that's This Week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, log on to www.nasa.gov.